Ahead of a political showdown in the United States Capitol this week, the Washington Post was first to report that President Donald Trump pressured Georgia's top election official to find enough votes to overturn his loss in that state, raising legal and ethical questions for a president already impeached by the U.S. Congress. The Post obtained an audio recording of the Saturday telephone call between Trump and Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, in which the outgoing President Trump flattered, begged and threatened Raffensperger with unsubstantiated criminal consequences that were should the Georgia election not be overturned.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow, because you have a big election coming up. And because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote.
And for more on the story and the political state of the United States in the week ahead, let's speak now with our correspondent in New York, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Sherwin, a very good evening to you and compliments of the season to you. So that was just a short snippet of the audio of that call between President Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State. And it comes just ahead of two key Georgia elections tomorrow, which will decide which party controls the Senate. So what are the key takeaways from that most recent development?
A tinge, perhaps, Pease, of deja vu, given that this is an impeached president who got himself into trouble because of a call he made to the Ukrainian president as it related to an investigation into the Biden family. So certainly, the legal and ethical questions around the call and the pressure he was putting there on Brad Raffensperger to find those 11,780 votes, essentially the margin with which he lost the state of Georgia. But it also has implications for Republican messaging as they head into those two key Senate runoff races tomorrow. Essentially, that will determine which party, either Republican or Democrat, control the United States Senate. Kamala Harris, for example, the vice president-elect, was in Garden City, Georgia yesterday, campaigning for the two Democratic nominees in that Senate race. This was her reaction to that Trump call.
Have you all heard about that recorded conversation? Well, it was, yes, certainly the voice of desperation. Most certainly that. And it was a bald-faced, bold abuse of power by the President of the United States.
So what it's really done, Pease, has really opened up a narrative for Democrats heading into Tuesday's election, really being able to castigate the actions of the Republican Party here, the pressure that you're seeing from the president on a Republican Georgian Secretary of State, essentially a member of his own party. John Ossoff is a Senate candidate for the Democratic side in Georgia. He also weighed in. This is what he had to say.
And at this moment, when the President of the United States calls up Georgia's election officials and tries to intimidate them to change the result of the election, to disenfranchise Georgia voters, to disenfranchise black voters in Georgia who delivered this state for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That is a direct attack on our democracy, and if David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler had one piece of steel in their spines, one shred of integrity, they would be out here defending Georgia voters from that kind of assault.
So President Trump due to attend a rally, headlining a rally this evening in Georgia for those two Republican Senate nominees. And the big concern, is he going to stick to the Republican message in terms of trying to get out the vote tomorrow, or is he going to castigate the electoral system in Georgia based on his electoral loss in that state last November?
So Sherwin, tell us about those two Georgia Senate races, a key focus tomorrow. But on Wednesday, we'll also see the United States Congress convene to count the electoral votes presented and certified by the states. So this action, will it affirm or reject those electoral college votes? And also tell us about a number of Republican House and Senate members, we believe, have indicated that they'll object. Do we know why, and what will be the effect of that?
Right, so we've been talking, you and I, a long time about how convoluted the United States electoral process is. You had the election last November, you had early voting, mail-in ballots, you had the electoral college. We explained kind of the differences between the popular vote and the need for the electoral college and the need to prevail there. And those votes in December were then tabulated by the electoral college, affirming Joe Biden's victory. And now the last step in this process is for the United States Congress to open those certified envelopes from the 50 states of the United States that have been certified by electoral officials in those states and say Joe Biden has won based on those votes. What a number of Republicans are going to do, about 140 in the House, some 12 U.S. senators, they are going to object. So that means when you object to those results, you will then enter a 2-hour debate in both houses, both the House of Representatives and the Senate. So you'll have that debate. And if need be, senators and members of the House will vote. And so a simple majority is then required to either reject or affirm those electoral college votes. And here's the kicker. Democrats control the House of Representatives, and too many Republican senators have said Joe Biden won this election, and they are objecting to the fact that their colleagues within the GOP are objecting. So what you have on Wednesday is a political theater, political showcase, where Republicans have to, who certainly view themselves as potential candidates come 2024 in a future presidential race, they have to ensure that they are not alienating Trump supporters who believe that this president was cheated out of election. So essentially what you have here is a process that will eventually affirm Joe Biden, but there might be some political theater and shenanigans just before that happens.
And more drama and shenanigans expected, I believe, then Sherwin, when Congress convenes. President Trump is promoting a big protest rally. What are you hearing? What is word on the ground? Is that expected to turn violent?
Well, he's been tweeting about the come down to D.C. on January 6th. Of course, January 6th is when Congress takes this final action in this election. So you'll have the legislative process within the chamber, and outside in Washington, D.C., you're likely to see thousands of Trump supporters come out in their numbers. The D.C. mayor has warned residents to stay away from downtown, not to get into confrontations. There is some reports that weapons will be smuggled into some of these rallies. And of course, Washington, D.C. has a law that prohibits visible carry of weapons in a scenario like that. So clearly a little tension on the street. The president tweeting earlier, Tsepiso, that he might show up at one of these rallies. So certainly political theater within the chambers of Congress and on the streets. And of course, a great deal of concern that circumstances might turn violent if things certainly get out of hand.
Thanks, Sherwin. And of course, we'll catch up with you tomorrow for developments on that. My colleague Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York. Now,